and it was the Americans who'd condemned her father for conspiring with the Khmer Rouge after a sham trial that lasted no more than an hour. Even now she could picture herself standing at the window of their burned-out home until she heard the shot. He had been executed by a young American lieutenant. In the inquiry into her father's death, the American had testified that Gerald Marceau, governor-designate of the coastal village of Kampot Som, had tried to escape. Moreover, the lieutenant's superiors, 6 old men in stiffly starched uniforms with gaudy ribbons and decorations, had believed him. The young American by the name of Crane had been sent home a hero. Jacqueline Marceau had convinced herself that the young American lieutenant had lied. Jacqueline knew her father too well. Gerald Marceau would never have tried to escape. The Gerald Marceau she knew would have stayed and faced his fate. Above everything, her father was an honorable man. Convincing Mao Chuan that Crane should be one of the targets had been easier than she had anticipated. As the thoughts of those early days faded, she paused to study her reflection in the mirror. Tall, slightly angular, with the ebony-colored hair and almond eyes of her mother, she relied more on the attributes she had inherited from her father to complete her mission. It was his cunning, his sagacity, his determination that endeared him to her. She likewise knew that it was her own shrewdness, deception, and subtlety that had caused Mao Chuan to select her. Now she waited to see if the second phase of Mao Chuan's plan had gone as well as the first. The first call had come at 11 o'clock. It had been from the one Tanu Han referred to as Liu Xiao. As usual, their phone conversation was restricted. It took him less than 30 seconds to confirm that he had obtained the copy of Whirling's report. She knew there was more, but even if there had not been the time restriction, Liu Xiao was a man of few words who moved in his own shadows. She had read Liu's dossier when Mao informed her of his plan, and it was Mao Chuan himself who had warned her that Liu was a calculated risk, a question mark, a man prone to putting his own twist on any scheme. So far, she would have to report he had followed orders to the letter. She was still standing at the mirror, considering what he had said, when the phone rang. This time, it was Chen Po Li. Unlike Liu Xiao, his voice sounded hurried and edgy. Now there were 2 reports to file. Time 23:19 LT. Chen Po Li cradled the receiver between his ear and shoulder while he lit a cigarette. He took 2 deep drags before he spoke in Mandarin.
"It went exactly as expected," he reported. "And as we expected, there was much confusion."
"You're certain all of the American officials were on board?" Jacqueline asked.
"Records will show Airman Chow assisted with the luggage," Chen said. "And it was also Airman Chow who personally assisted the Undersecretary of State and his wife to seats aboard the aircraft."
"How many were aboard the aircraft?"
15. You will recognize many names."
"You have done well," Jacqueline said, "but there is still much to be done." Chen cocked the receiver under his chin a second time and checked his watch. There was still the matter of disposing of the real Airman Chow's body and getting rid of Chow's car. He told the woman it would take him no more than 30 minutes. "Excellent," she said. Her assessment was followed by an abrupt click. Chen placed the receiver back in the cradle, checked the now empty military VIP corridor, headed for the nearest exit, and stepped out into the damp Florida night. 20 minutes later, he had driven south on 953 and turned onto the Dixie Highway. Finally, he came to an undeveloped and deserted stretch of beach south of Hemlock Park. He pulled Chow's aging Dodge behind an old bathhouse, stepped out of the car, and walked around to the trunk. What had earlier been a light mist when they were loading Swelling's plane had now deteriorated into a steady rain. He took out his flashlight and traced the beam over the body of the young Chinese American whose identity he had used to gain access.